What's going on, guys? Today I'm gonna be doing a scary story time. Now, this is fictional. I'm just reading it off a website and doing the voice. I'm just basically retelling a story to you. But before I do that, be sure to subscribe and like this video right after it ends. And help me get to 500 subscribers for a Draw My Life video. Let's get right into the story. So, this is a story of Follow the Arrows, and it's basically a scary story written by Floss Daily. So yeah, let's get started. One evening, I met my friends Jeff and Dave in a bar for a few drinks. When I went to the bathroom and walked into one of the stalls, I happened to notice some writing on the door. It read, "Follow the arrows." I looked around, but I didn't see any arrows, so I decided to think much more about it. However, 2 hours later, I had to use the restroom again. As I walked through the door, I accidentally bumped the light switch with my shoulder and the room was completely dark. That's when I noticed it. On the ceiling above my head, there was a trail of glow-in-the-dark arrows. That's scary. They looked like they had been there for quite a while. I was intrigued. I wanted to follow the arrows and find out where they led. I went back to the table and told Jeff and Dave what I had discovered. They were curious too. We decided to investigate. I went home and got a black light. It's kind of like a small flashlight, but it illuminates things that are visible to the naked eye. When I returned to the bar, it was almost closing time. Dave and Jeff were waiting for me, their faces full of excitement. I went to the bathroom and tested my black light on some of the painted arrows. It worked like a charm. They glowed brightly. We followed the trail of arrows as they led from the toilet across the ceiling of the bar and out into the street. With my black light, I searched around for visible arrows. On the ground, I found one. I followed the arrow, keeping my black light inches from the ground, waving it back and forth as Dave and Jeff followed close behind. A few feet away, I found another arrow, then another, and another. Still, I was following the arrows down a sidewalk for about 2 blocks. We started wondering where the arrows were taking us. Finally, I got to an arrow pointing us in a new direction. It was a driveway leading to an empty lot that was surrounded by a tall metal fence. We couldn't see what was inside. The arrows led up to the gate. Jeff pushed on the gate, but it was locked. We decided to jump over the fence. Jeff went first, getting a firm handhold at the top, then pulling himself over. I put the black light in my pocket and took a running leap at the gate. Dave gave me a helping hand, pushing my legs from underneath until I tumbled over the fence. Then, Dave followed, hauling himself over the tall fence with surprising ease. We found ourselves in what looked like an old parking lot, weeds spraying from cracks in the broken concrete. I pulled out the black light and quickly found another arrow. We followed the new trail slowly and it led us to a small shack in the middle of the parking lot. "I know what this is," said Dave. "It used to be a drive-in movie theater. I think that's a concession stand over there." As we approached the building, we saw that it was boarded up. There was some faded lettering on the wall that read, "Popcorn." Dave shrugged. "So what? The arrows lure people to buy popcorn." We walked around the building until we came to a door in the back. It was secured by an old combination padlock. My black light picked up something scrawled on the floor in glowing paint. It was a series of numbers. 1, 3, 5, 6. Jeff entered the numbers in the combination lock and pulled it open with a satisfying click. He pushed on the old door and swung open with an ominous creak. Jeff peeked inside. "I can't see anything," he said. I peeked inside the door, shining my black light. It was useless. I cursed myself for not bringing a real flashlight. Just as I was about to suggest, we head back home and return another day. I heard a click and a dim light appeared in the old building Dave had found the light switch. "This place looks like it hasn't been used for at least 30 years, said Jeff. "Look at this parking lot. There are trees in it." "The electricity is still on," I replied. "Someone is still paying the bills." We walked in and saw the interior was surprisingly clean apart from a thin coating of dust. It was the sort of dust you would expect to find in an ancient Egyptian tomb. The shelves were empty and a cabinet stood on the far side of the room. Dave walked over and cautiously opened it. "Wow, look at this!" he exclaimed. The shelves were packed with candy boxes. I recognized Cracker Jacks, Hershey bars, but the labels were very old. Dropping my blacklight on the floor, I grabbed excitedly for a giant box of chocolate. That's stealing, man. Before I could examine them further, I heard Jeff say, "Guys, check this out." He was standing over a hatch in the floor. He had pulled it up and was peering down into the darkness. "Maybe there's another light down there," he said. He went down the set of steps that led into the cellar, and Dave and I followed close behind, trying to find a light switch. I was halfway to the bottom of the stairs when I heard a click and a dim light bulb flickered in the dusty basement. "Found it," said Jeff. We walked toward the light, bumping into empty shelves and strange debris. Canvas bags like sacks of potatoes littered the floor. On one of the shelves, I spotted some old film canisters. We hurried over, reading the titles that seemed to be mostly old monster movies. "Dracula Returns, Night of the Wolf People." I didn't recognize any of these titles. We all jumped when we heard a loud whirring sound. It seemed to be coming from near the stairs, and it sounded somehow familiar, like an electric power tool. Through the hatch at the top of the stairs, we saw the shadows shift and change. At the last, the sound stopped. We stood still for a moment, our hearts beating hard in our chests. Then we all ran over to the hatch to investigate. My mind could not comprehend what I saw. The hatch we had come through only moments ago, now blocked by iron bars. Jeff ran up the steps as far as he could and grasped the iron bars, rattling them violently. They wouldn't budge. There was some sort of motorized contraption attached to the iron bars. It was so dark, though, that I could barely make it out. I reached into my pocket for my blacklight. That was when I realized I had left it upstairs. Jeff stood next to me, held up his cell phone in the dim light. I could just make out a giant metal box that was mounted on the basement ceiling. If there was a way to access the device, I couldn't see it. Dave gasped suddenly and ran over to one of the canvas bags on the floor. He dragged it into the light and worked to untie it. When he was done, I saw him look into the bag and make a sound I'd never heard before. Something between a scream and a groan. He started hyperventilating. Jeff and I ran over and looked into the bag. At first, I couldn't tell what I was looking at. Then I saw the hair and the pale flesh. I dropped the bag and vomited violently. I tried to speak, but vomited again. "Jeff!" I gasped, my throat raw. "Your phone! Call the police! Call them now!" I put my hand on Dave's shoulder. He was slowly rocking back and forth, trying to control his breathing. Calm himself, I looked around. There was about a dozen similar bags on the floor. Jeff eventually got through someone on the phone. He explained where the bar was and how he had walked several blocks to a parking lot with a fence around it. He told them about the concession stand in the basement with the locked iron bars. I grabbed the phone. "Look," I said, "there are dead bodies in bags down here. Dozens of them." The woman on the other end said, "Just stay calm. I want you to stay on the line with me and give me your names." We told her who we were and answered her questions. I knew we should conserve the phone batteries, but she was our lifeline out of this crazy situation. After we answered all her questions, she said, "You know, making prank calls to emergency rescue services is a very serious crime." My blood turned cold. She thought we were joking. As calmly as I could, I croaked, "Ma'am, I swear to you, I have never been more serious in my life. Please, send someone down here. If we were lying, you can arrest us. Just send someone, please." "Young man," she replied, "don't you have better things to do on a school night?" I heard a click as she hung up the phone. "She didn't believe us," I whispered. "Give me the phone," said Dave. He dialed the operator and spoke calmly and deliberately. "Operator, I'd like to speak to New Hyde Park Police, please." "Yes, it's an emergency. No, I don't want 911 or dispatch. I want the police department. There was a moment's silence, and then he spoke in a deep voice. Hello, officer. I'd like to report some teenagers causing a disturbance in an abandoned building. They were throwing things around, smashing bottles, wrecking the place. I saw them drag a little girl down into the basement. It sounds awful bad. Just awful bad. Someone needs to get down here quick before they hurt. That little girl. Brilliant, Dave. Just brilliant, I thought. He gave the officer the location of the lot. In the description, it was perfect. After answering some more the officer's questions, he begged her once again to hurry and hung up the phone. Just then, we heard the sound of a car pulling up outside. Wow, that was fast, said Dave. That's not the cops, I whispered. We heard a car door open and close. Then heavy footsteps tramped across the gravel. Jeff ran over to the hatch with the iron bars. We're down here, he yelled. Help, please, we're down here. The footsteps were slow and deliberate overhead. A pair of work boots and dirty pants appeared at the top of the stairs. Jeff stumbled back down the stairs. He looked pale. I looked up and saw a bear of a man. Standing there, he was intimidatingly large. He was smoking a cigarette, staring down at us. Excuse me, sir, I began, but he just walked away as if he hadn't heard me and went outside. We heard him get something heavy out of his vehicle and then drag it inside. Whatever it was, he set it down with a thump. Then we saw plastic tarp roll across the iron bars. Moments later, we heard the sound of duct tape. Alright, guys. That's half of the story. If you want to go to the full story, go to scaryforkids.com. Follow the arrows. The full story is on there. But please like this video if you enjoyed the voice or the retell I did. And subscribe for more content. And peace. And I will be doing a vlog tomorrow, so peace.